Hi there. I'm here today because I want to talk to you about tapping, also known as EFT or Emotional Freedom Technique. In this video, I'm just going to give you a brief overview of what tapping is and how to do it. And then at the end of the video, I'm going to take you through a brief sample exercise that will take you from a state of stress and overwhelm to a state of calm, equanimity, sense of control. And so I hope that you'll stay with me until the end of the video so you can experience firsthand just how powerful this simple exercise actually is. Now, I've used tapping in my practice as a licensed acupuncturist for the past 16 years. I've also used it extensively in my own personal life. I find that it is one of the most powerful tools in my toolbox for any type of unpleasant emotion, for helping people deal with trauma and phobias, any type of distressing memories. It can actually be used very effectively for addressing physical pain, problems like insomnia. And I think that you find that once you learn about tapping and kind of get a sense of how powerful it is, you want to try it on just about everything because it has such extensive application for all kinds of problems. Now, we're starting to learn a lot more about exactly how tapping works. There's actually a lot of scientific research taking place about this technique. We know that it helps to calm the fight or flight nervous system, and it actually also helps to activate the rest and digest nervous system. We know that it helps to kind of sever the connection between thoughts and emotions and memories from the actual physical fight or flight responses that those thoughts, emotions, and memories cause in the body. We also know that it helps to regulate the production and release of cortisol. It helps to reduce cortisol levels in people who are chronically stressed, which has extensive health benefits. Now, I've created a tapping QuickStart document and posted it on my website for you to download. So I will provide a link below this video so you can go to that page on my website and download that document so you can follow along with the information in this video. It will give you, you don't have to take notes on this video because all of this information is contained in the tapping QuickStart document, along with lots of other really useful information. This document is a summary of everything that I've learned about using tapping over the past 16 years, and there's information in this document that you won't find anywhere else. I think it will help you to use tapping even more effectively if you're already familiar with it, and it will also help you just get off on the right foot if you are new to this amazing technique. So please do download that document. Now, just to get started on how tapping works step by step. The first step in doing tapping effectively is to do something called identify your most pressing issue. So basically what this means is to just sit down, take a few breaths, tune into how you're feeling, and try and sort of boil it down into a short phrase. Now, sometimes I start out by kind of jotting in my journal about the issue that I'm facing or the feelings that I'm having to help me identify and kind of really hone in on my most pressing issue. And I'm actually going to give you a tapping cheat sheet in the document that I mentioned that you can download from my website that will help you kind of take you through this process of honing in on your most pressing issue because it's really important. You want to be clear about what you're trying to address with tapping, and you want to be specific so that way you can be targeted in this technique and you'll experience much more beneficial results if you're very specific and targeted in honing in on your most pressing issue, which is basically another phrase or another way of describing just what's most bothering you right now. Now, the second step is to rate your most pressing issue, or MPI, on a subjective units of distress scale. And the acronym for that is SUDS. And so on that scale, a 0 would be no intensity at all, that you're not feeling at all distressed about the issue. And then a 10 would be as intense as you possibly can imagine. And so I always tell people that it's very important to write this SUDS rating down, because sometimes tapping is so amazingly effective at diffusing stressful emotions that if you haven't written your SUDS down at the beginning, you hardly believe that you ever felt all that intense about the issue a few minutes later after you've finished tapping on it. So always write your SUDS down. Don't get too obsessed with getting this number perfect, or obsessing over, well, is it a 6 or is it a 7? Just sit down, kind of breathe into your emotions, feel them in your body, and then choose a SUDS rating, the first one that occurs to you. And then the third step is going to be to create what is called a setup statement. And a setup statement has two parts. The first part is the even though statement. So even though, and then you're going to give a brief summary of your most pressing issue. So, and then you're going to follow that along with part 2 of the setup statement, which is kind of the affirmation part of the statement. And so the kind of classic affirmation statement that is used with tapping is, I choose to love and accept myself anyway. And so that one's always easy, always works. But sometimes I find that people, for whatever reason, don't feel comfortable with that affirmation. And that actually sort of serves as a hurdle between people and using this very powerful, very useful technique. And so for that reason, I have created a list of dozens of alternative setup statements, and that's included in the QuickStart document that I mentioned earlier. So if you don't like, I choose to love and accept myself anyway, then you've got lots of other choices. And so say, for instance, we are going to be tapping on the topic of feeling stressed out and overwhelmed. So the way that you would construct a setup statement for that situation is, even though I'm stressed out and completely overwhelmed, so that's your MPI, I choose to love and accept myself anyway. And so that's that second affirmation part of the setup statement. The next step is to pick a reminder phrase. And so some people just use a reminder phrase that is 2 or 3 words long. The purpose of the reminder phrase is to just keep your attention on the issue at hand, to keep your attention from wandering off to other things. And so you can either use a reminder phrase that's just 2 or 3 or even 1 word long to remind you, to keep you focused on the issue at hand. Or the way that I actually prefer to do it is just to kind of vent aloud about the issue that I am addressing with tapping. And so we'll get into explaining how that works here in a few minutes. Step 5 is to just prepare to tap. So we're going to actually be tapping on points on the face. And so it usually works best to take off your glasses. We're going to be tapping sort of around the hands. And so it also generally works best, although it's not absolutely necessary, to take off your watch and any other jewelry or clothing that might get in the way of being able to reach this area around your neck and also around your torso. And then step 6 is just to tap. So I'm going to go through now and I'm just going to show you the acupressure points that we're going to be stimulating with finger pressure with tapping. You don't have to worry about being super precise about the location of these points. Typically what I tell people is that these points are about the diameter of a quarter. And so especially if you're using a couple of fingers, which is what I generally do, you're going to get the point. You don't have to obsess over being in exactly the right spot. You can tap on either side of your body. You can tap with 1 finger or a few fingers. And you want to just use gentle but firm pressure. You know, you don't want to tap nearly hard enough to hurt yourself or leave red spots or bruises or sore spots or anything like that. This is not a more is better kind of thing. This is not a no pain, no gain kind of technique, but you want to tap firmly enough that you get kind of some kinetic energy into those points. Okay, so I just want to go through now and show you all the tapping points before we do our demonstration. So the first tapping point is what lots of people refer to as the karate chop point. And this point is on the side of the hand right here, kind of at the base of the little finger. And so you're going to be tapping on this point when you say your setup statement. Okay. And then the next point is the eyebrow point. So I'm going to go ahead and take off my glasses here so I can show this all to you more precisely. So the eyebrow point is just at the inner corner of your eyebrow. Now we're going to be tapping on 3 points that surround the eye. And so it's important to realize that all of these points are on this bony ridge around the eye. You're not tapping on the soft part inside that ridge. You're actually tapping on that bony ridge right in the inner corner of your eyebrow. Then this next point is the side of the eye. So just outside the outer corner of your eye, again on the bony ridge. The next point is under the eye point. And so this point is centered just pretty much right directly beneath your iris, again on the bony ridge. The under the nose point, which is just at the midpoint between the base of your nose and your upper lip. The chin point, which really technically is not, it's not the tip of your chin here. It is the midpoint between the tip of the chin and your lower lip. So in this little kind of cleft area here, that is the chin point. Now, the collarbone point, if you can feel where your collarbone comes in here toward the center and meets up with your sternum, right there, there is kind of a hollow that is just outside of and just beneath the meeting point between those two bones. And a lot of people, that point is a little bit tender. So that is the collarbone point. And the last point on the torso is the underarm point, which you may or may not be able to see here in the video. But if you were to measure approximately 4 inches directly below your armpit at a point that on a woman would basically be right where the bra strap is, that is the underarm point. And then the last point is at the very tippy top center of the head. That's the top of the head point. And so you've tapped through all of those points while venting aloud about your issue, which I'm going to show you in a few minutes exactly how to do this. So don't worry, I'm going to get more specific here in a second. You've tapped through all of those points. And then after that, you are going to pause and just kind of breathe. And then you're going to re-rate your suds. Just tune in to the sensations and your motions in your body and re-rate the suds. Compare your new suds to the one that you started out with. And then you're going to either repeat with another round of tapping, or if you don't feel like you're making any progress or you need to kind of pause and revise your most pressing issue in your setup statement, you can do that as well. And then you're just going to repeat this whole procedure until you start feeling a sense of calm resolution and your suds has come down at least to 2, if not below. At least to 2, maybe even 1, or ideally even 0. So now we're just going to go through this and we're going to give this a try together. I'm going to take you through a procedure of tapping on a most pressing issue of feeling stressed and overwhelmed, just because I figure that that's an issue that an awful lot of people deal with, and so it probably will be applicable to you. And so I want you to just follow along with me. And I've actually written out what I'm going to be saying on the screen. So ideally, if you're in a position to do it and you have a little bit of privacy, you can read along and say these things with me while you tap on the points on your body. So that way, at the end of this whole thing, you're going to be feeling better, and so am I. But I want you to know that even though I've typed this out and sort of given you a script for this procedure in this video, you don't have to obsess over these details and feel like you need to get it perfect when you're doing this for yourself, for your own issues. Just say whatever comes to mind and it'll be perfect. So this is a very forgiving technique and one that you'll get comfortable with very fast, just as long as you're willing to step out and give it a try. So, all right, so our setup statement. Remember that a setup statement has two parts. It has the even though part, and it has the affirmation part, which is the I choose to love and accept myself anyway part. So our most pressing issue of even though I'm incredibly stressed and feel completely overwhelmed is our most pressing issue. I choose to love and accept myself anyway. So we're going to go ahead and start tapping on this. And I'll tell you one thing that I want to definitely mention is that the more sort of emotion and emphasis you can place into these words, it's going to make it more effective if you really put some emotion and some oomph into this. So we're going to start out with this karate chop point on the side of your hand, the base of your little finger is the point that we're tapping. Typically on this karate chop point, I'm using at least 2 and sometimes even 3 fingers on my other hand to tap. Okay, so I'm going to say, even though I'm incredibly stressed and I feel completely overwhelmed, I choose to love and accept myself anyway. Even though I feel incredibly stressed and completely overwhelmed, I choose to love and accept myself anyway. Even though I'm incredibly stressed and I feel completely overwhelmed, I choose to love and accept myself anyway. Okay, so we do that 3 times. Now we move on to the points on the face. I'm so overwhelmed. How can I possibly get it all done? We skipped one. We'll do the side of the eye point here too, which I skipped past. I just never seem to be able to get on top of it all. There's always more to do. There's just so much to do. I don't even know where to start. I wish things were calmer. I wish I were calmer. I wish it was possible to do everything that I have to do and still have time for myself. Because life is passing me by. Okay, so now I'm actually starting to feel much more calm. And so I'm going to go ahead and proceed and do another round of tapping on those same points again. If I just breathe for a moment, things seem so much less overwhelming. And I realize when I'm stressed, I'm mostly just spinning my wheels and wasting a lot of pointless effort. By slowing down, doing one thing at a time, I can be more efficient and a lot more calm. And it's so much easier to take care of the important things and let the other stuff go when I'm calm. Actually, most of what I've been stressing about is not the important stuff at all. And I always do seem to get things done in the end. Whether I stress or not. So I won't. Okay. So I'm just going to take a breath and tune into the way I feel. And I don't know about you, but I feel an awful lot better. Just in that little bit. It only took me 3 or 4 minutes or so. If this were a bigger issue, a thornier issue, an issue that had a few more dimensions to it, then we can get into a lot more depth, and I'll show you how to do that in the next video, where I'm going to talk about the tapping cheat sheet and how to use it. But hopefully this will have given you a sense of just how useful this technique is and how quickly you can use it to just calm down, center yourself, make yourself feel more calm and in control, and therefore set yourself up to be happier and more productive. So thanks for being here. Again, please download this document and return for the next video, which is going to be about how to use the tapping cheat sheet in order to actually mine your unpleasant emotions for very useful data. Use them as a springboard for some really amazing insight in yourself and personal growth. So thanks for being here and have a good day.